I was in a room last week with at least one CIO from one of the larger health systems who are making this big move over to Epic. You went through that. What would you be telling them if you were in front of them today in terms of that journey?
I think if we had a magic trick in our Epic conversion, it was make the clinical and business decisions first and have the technology match those clinical decisions as opposed to having the technology impose those clinical decisions. Mayo operates in the Midwest, centered in Rochester, Minnesota, in Jacksonville, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona. And we had operated those somewhat separately. The idea was we kind of were a holding company that was using a common brand and a common ethos, but not common governance, to more of an operating company. And that predated me. That goes back 3 CEOs. We started that under Dr. Dennis Cortese. And there was a lot of effort to get clinical standards the same in all of our locations. And when we started our project, we were probably 80% done with that clinical convergence. We call it practice convergence. We got that done about 80%, and the last 20% were kind of imposed by the EHR. The thing is, very few clinicians love their EHR. They tolerate it. And it has something to do with the technology, but it has much more to do with the fact that the EHR is a thing that imposes the rules of an institution on clinical practice. You're kind of boxed in of what you can and can't do. And sometimes people want to push against that cage. And they feel like they're pushing against the EHR. In some cases they are. But in many cases, they're pushing against the rules of the institution or the rules of payers or the rules of regulators. That all gets instantiated as part of this EHR. I think understanding that these things frame the way that medical practice happens, and they will never be loved, they can be resented. So making sure that the clinicians feel like they are driving the change and that they got to decide how clinical practice happens in advance of a conversion project, I think is really key.